What is up, YouTube? My name is Eben, and today on the Edge, I've got a card that I have dug from the very depths of Modified. In fact, it's from the XY base set, and it is a card that you will almost surely have to say, what the heck does that do? But it's actually a pretty powerful card in our current meta, believe it or not. And it's going to take, okay, a little bit of thinking to kind of realize it, but believe me, it is going to be worth the wait. That card is Simisage. Yeah, Simisage. Just a regular rare. He's got 90 HP, 1 energy retreat, weak to fire. For 2 grass and a colorless, he can attack for 70 with Solar Beam, but the real juice here is his 1 colorless energy attack, Torment. It deals 20 damage, and you can choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks, and they can't use that attack during their next turn. So, he seems pretty standard and maybe a little unexciting, but what makes this card good is how many things combine with it, and the way our current metagame stands and Modified, how powerful he actually is, as crazy as that sounds. I mean, first off, let's get the obvious out of the way. We can use his Torment easily with any energy of any kind on turn 1, or rather our first attacking turn with Forest of Giant Plants. Okay, that's pretty standard. We kind of saw that one coming. Not too crazy, but still pretty important. If you go second, that means you can lock somebody with Torment immediately, very easily blocking whatever attack they were going to use, but obviously couldn't since they went first, giving this guy and any deck that runs him the potential to do that Seismitoad thing where they always want to go second because it's so advantageous for them. But more on that in a second. Of course, locking and stalling people like this, as they're liable only to have one attack they can use right off the bat, makes Simisage combine excellently with Crushing Hammer and Enhanced Hammer, which are very powerful cards right now in Modified, a format where special energies are running amok, especially double colorless energy, but also things like double dragon energy. And with cards like this assisting him, Simisage obviously can be very problematic for your opponent. But let's talk consistency, if that's kind of your issue. This guy's a level ball target because he's got 90 HP exactly, which is awfully convenient. And of course, his previous evolved form, Pansage, is of course naturally a level ball target as well. So no problem getting set up there, and he's only a stage 1, not a stage 2. And he's a great user of Muscle Band, as that raises his Torment up to 40 damage a turn. Not bad, not bad, not bad. But we can also utilize Hard Charm to raise this guy from 90 HP to effectively 110, and minimize a lot of smaller attacks that we might be taking, especially the Torment potentially blocking bigger ones. So Hard Charm, while it might make our game a little slower, could easily help lock out opponents who might otherwise have the drop on us. I mean, for instance, tormenting the right Pokemon might mean tormenting away, say, a Grenade Hammer on an otherwise still potentially threatening Seismitoad. But with Hard Charm, heck, that Quaking Punch barely means anything at all while your Torment is racking up much heavier damage. But Hard Charm can mean a lot more than that against other Pokemon too, like taking no damage from Vespiquen once you've locked out its Bee Revenge. But anyway, more on that in a moment. Other combinations, okay, obviously any stage 1 we gotta mention Vaporeon, Flareon, Jolteon. We can do that to increase our damage for type matching, and then of course when you factor in things like Muscle Band, we could be talking 80 damage a turn against a lot of matchups. But, you know, I don't think that's actually the main thing we want to do with Simisage. As crazy as that sounds, I think there's some other fun things we could combine instead, and might not necessarily need this bonus, mainly because it takes up a lot of room in your deck. But if you do want to go that way, I mean, it's an easy thing to add Vespiquen to Simisage, and Simisage can easily help cover and buy you some turns whilst setting up Vespiquen if things aren't quite setting up as fast for you, or if you want to just opt for a slightly slower, more controlled version of Vespiquen. And speaking of grass types that can easily set up with Forest of Giant Plants, how about Ariados? Ariados, or however you want to pronounce it, is another great combination with Simisage. He can lock things out from retreating with his attack, which is interesting, but more importantly, he can put on offensive pressure, which is something Simisage kind of lacks with his Poisonous Nest, while of course not poisoning Simisage in return, as Simisage is a grass type. And we can start doing that from our very first turn, even if we go first, because of Forest of Giant Plants, which is awesome. But that might not just be enough to put on offensive pressure with Ariados, but one thing Simisage would sorely appreciate is a way to block opponents from retreating at all, as many Pokemon have 1 or 2 attacks tops. The ability to lock out one of their attacks and then prevent their retreat altogether, especially if you're talking about removing energies with hammers, That could be devastating. It could allow Simisage to basically guarantee KOs against Pokemon who will be able to do little or nothing in return against you. So Dragalge's, obviously his Poison Barrier, for those of you who don't know, means Poison Pokemon can't retreat, combines beautifully with Ariados. Between these three Pokemon, honestly, very few things can resist. But what things are we talking about resisting? Well, first of all, the ubiquitous Seismitoad, who's just everywhere, has plenty to fear from Seismitoad. Has plenty to fear from Simisage. For one thing, he takes double damage from it because he's weak to it, which is amazing, because that gives you plenty of potentially great matchups. Not only that, but usually he's in a deck that doesn't even have the ability to fire his Grenade Hammer. So by tormenting his Quaking Punch, you've literally locked this guy completely out, and he has a painful 3 energy retreat cost to try to get out of giving your opponent, for your opponent essentially, them giving you 2 free prizes by completely locking their Toad out. And, as if that were not enough, we can even, of course with Dragalge, lock this guy out of retreating altogether and force them to try super scoop-upping and things like that just to bail him out. But with hammers, we can also take away those DCEs permanently so those super scoop-ups no longer retrieve them. It's just one thing after another there. And there is no shortage of Pokemon who are completely locked by Simisage just by virtue of the fact that they only have one attack. I mean, let's talk about the fact that virtually all Megas have a single attack, meaning that any Mega that comes in against Simisage will be instantaneously locked the first time you attack them, and all this for a single colorless energy. And we could even go so far as to Poisonous Nest, Poison Barrier, Trap, Shaman, an incredibly common EX Pokemon that will surrender 2 prizes very quickly, and by tormenting, we can lock out his Sky Return, which would otherwise allow him to retreat to your opponent's hand, meaning your opponent can be very short on options against Simisage. So, that is one card that has definitely flown under everyone's radar, even mine until recently, and I think it is definitely worth building around, and you'll catch a lot of people off guard, and they'll have relatively few answers to your Simisage, other than maybe a couple of switches or escape ropes. And since he only coughs up 1 prize when he's knocked out, it can be easy to just outlast their answers and eventually just put them in a stranglehold they simply can't escape. So anyway, until next time, like, comment, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter if you haven't already. Link is below as always, and I will see you next time.